special meeting for Thursday, May 14th at 7 p.m. Roll call, Manager Silka.
Commissioner Stump.
Here.
Commissioner Atwood.
Here.
Commissioner Blasco.
Here.
Commissioner Zona.
Here.
Commissioner Bevan.
Here.
Commissioner Goss.
Here.
Commissioner Higas.
Here, could everyone please stand and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If any residents would like to speak tonight, they can sign the book at the podium. We have one resident tonight, Rich Gray. Just name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. Excuse me. I won't be able to talk. Rich Gray, 12229 Adams Drive, North Huntington. I know this isn't a question and answer period, but I was just curious if the board, maybe you could raise your hand if you know, and maybe if you don't, keep it down. But does everyone know that I filed a right to know request with the township? Anybody know that? Okay. Anybody then obviously nobody knows that I filed an appeal with the state because part of it was denied. You have an open records officer, Manager Silka serves as that. I filed the request a few weeks ago, and he granted part of it and sent me some information, excuse me, and denied part of it. And it's regarding the meeting you had in February 26th, the retreat you had that was closed to the public. And I had asked for contents, any agendas, any correspondence with the solicitor as to how that meeting was classified as a private meeting and not open to the public. I asked for justification. In fact, I emailed every commissioner, I think, and asked everybody if they could get a formal opinion as to why that meeting was closed. And nobody answered. And I want to say, first of all, I am not faulting the commissioners because I know a lot of you are new, and I'm not saying anybody did anything underhanded as far as the commissioners go, but I had asked for an opinion back then, and I asked for an opinion or the correspondence between Manager Silka and the solicitor to provide justification for that meeting being private. Like I said, Jeff granted some of my requests. He sent me copies of the PowerPoint presentations that you had and some other things. Of particular concern to me was the manager's memo to the department heads that said this is what the meeting is going to be about. It was an agenda basically, and it involved goal setting and discussion and interaction between department heads. It was called engagement with the commissioners, and there was no reason that meeting should have been private. It was introduced, and I know at least Zach had felt it was going to be public because he and I had discussed it. I don't know what anybody else thought. I know Commissioner Blasco had announced it at the meeting over at Rescue 8 the one night, and he didn't give any indication one way or the other whether it was public or private. That's not an issue, what he said. But I'm waiting for that information. And like I said, your open records officer denied it. So I appealed to the state office of open records. They're going to rule on it on June 12th. In the meantime, the solicitor is engaging time spending tax dollars, because you don't pay him for that. That's not included. I mean, you do pay him, but it's not included in the retainer, I don't believe. So we're spending tax dollars to protect information that shouldn't be protected. And the Board of Commissioners has the authority to order the solicitor and the manager to produce those emails and say, here's what we were talking about, and justified the meeting. Why you would spend money to deny the public the right to know that, I don't understand, unless you're hiding something. And I don't think the commissioners are hiding anything. But it seems pretty foolish. Like I said, I'm not accusing any commissioner of wrongdoing. I believe the intent of the meeting was to conduct township business, but then when the scrutiny came by the Tribune Review, who's not here tonight, and the article came out, I forget if it was before or after the meeting, but I know the reporter had called the township and Manager Silka said it was a closed door meeting. And he actually got a hold of me and said, Rich, you know this meeting isn't open to the public. And I said, no, I didn't know that. There's a hint of shadiness there. But I don't think it's the commissioners. I believe the intent of the meeting was to conduct township business, but when the press got a hold of it, suddenly it was, well, we're not going to do goal setting, and no goal setting occurred, and we didn't. So obviously that was the point, and somebody was trying to conceal it. I have my own theories on who and why. It's called self-preservation. But we can talk about that individually if you like. I know I already emailed a number of commissioners right after the event, and everyone was very forthright, and I believe what you say, that really nothing happened that shouldn't have, but it was intended to. I guarantee that. To anybody that thinks that, well, I was there, so I made sure nothing wrong happened. Well, that's good, but you should, if you know better, you still should have left, because the meeting was not proper. And who are we as residents to go, okay, we trust you implicitly to say nothing happened? You don't realize the mistrust, I know some of you do, but the mistrust people have in the government right now. I mean, I think that's blatantly obvious. So why you would contribute to that, to try and hide these documents if nothing happened, and just sit there and say, well, I was there and nothing happened. There were no minutes, there were no notes, there's nothing to go back on, there was no recording of it, so we don't really know as the public. Now, I trust most of you completely and that nothing did happen, but what about everybody else? And to deny the right to know request adds a cloud of suspicion over the whole thing. So the way I see it, you have a couple of options. You can tell the solicitor and the manager to release the documents I requested, or we can wait for June 12th for the state to rule. Maybe I'll win, maybe I won't. Who knows? It's a crapshoot. I've read some Office of Open Records final determinations lately. They're leaning towards public availability of these records. So they're leaning toward an open government. So the township could lose. And maybe there's something in there, maybe there isn't, but why pay an attorney to fight it? Just throw it out there, and it is what it is. So you can all be heroes right now by talking about it later in executive session and saying, we just give him anything he asks for. I'll show you the request if you haven't seen it. If you don't know about it, just let me know. I'll email you exactly what I submitted and my argument to the state and the township's argument to the state that you're paying for. You can save the township money and remove any cloud of suspicion by just saying, just give it to them. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks. That's it for residents' input tonight. Response residents' input.
Yeah, I would like to.
Yeah.
Rich, I know we've known each other for years. It started all on, you live in Mercer and you were a lifeguard up at Manor East. And I think you were a teenager and I was my preteens. But I will tell you this, as God is my witness, you know where I am with the military and 26 years of service to God and country. I assure you, and I would like to remove any and all doubt. It was education only for us. It was the department heads, from what I remember very vividly, department heads educating on us about what their department does. And that's it. That's the honest to God's truth. That is exactly what I recall and remembering in February as to what that meeting was about. And I even think, if I'm not mistaken, we kind of hemmed and hawed about open, closed, but I don't think that we saw a reason to open it. And again, I don't see that we saw a reason to close it either. It was just honest to God, pure, plain and simple. Nobody had any hidden agendas. There was no shenanigans, any of that stuff. And I state that on my oath of office to this government for the last 26 years as a military field grade officer. There was nothing funny or suspicious about it. I just really, really want you to know that. And I think you know me well enough that, man, I speak my mind and I speak the truth. And if I can't speak the truth, I won't speak at all.
I know I can't respond, but you need to be familiar with the Sunshine Act. I will send you the information. Why it was, I believe you that
Yeah.
it did, but the intent was otherwise, and it was changed at the last minute, not by you. I'm not saying you're in.
Rich,
Sure.
if you're gonna go back and forth, go ahead and come up to the podium real quick.
No, yeah.
I know it seems.
I appreciate what you said, and I believe you, and
Yes,
I
sir.
believe everybody else I've talked to. I know not everybody was here that night. I know Fran wasn't here that night in February, but everybody else that has responded to me, I believe what they say, that nothing happened.
Right.
But it's clear from the memo that there was supposed to be things that happened, and the agenda changed right before the meeting when it became public that it was closed meeting. And there should not have been a closed meeting if it was indeed educational retreat, which is a loophole in the Sunshine Act, which I know people that are trying to get changed right now, and I'm working with them. If it was truly educational, don't you think that the residents would enjoy that education too, instead of you sitting there and having to explain it to them later as to why you cannot do something that they want done? I mean, the more people know, to be honest, the more they'll understand your position when they go, oh, they didn't do anything on this, they didn't do anything on that. Well, here's why. You probably learned some things. There were probably things that were said, hey, why don't we seal coat roads as much as we used to? Well, because we decided this. You know, money is better spent here. I mean, there's reasons for everything the township does. You know that.
Yeah.
It would be educational and beneficial to the public, too, to know that. Yeah. Because if you tell them individually, they think you're lying. They don't care who you are because you're a government official. Right. Where if the whole body is there and here's all the department heads say, well, this is what we do in our department and this is what we can't do, maybe because of private property matter or something like that, and here's what we can do, it makes everybody feel more secure in what goes on up here. Yeah. So thank you.
I don't deny that. I really don't. I mean, it was a good education. And it would have benefited, anybody that would have walked in really would have benefited from it. There's no doubt about it. But trust me when I say, as God is my witness, there was no, well, I agree with you. There was no malice ever intended. Yeah.
Any other board comment? Well, I'll comment on a few things. I was, like Rich stated, I was unaware that it was not going to be a public meeting right up until the meeting happened when we got here. You mentioned about the Sunshine Law Act. By our solicitor and my understanding of the Sunshine Law Act, board and the township was completely kosher on what the meeting transpired. It was educational purpose as a retreat, which is allowable by the Sunshine Law Act. I mean, if you don't like that, I can understand that, but by current law, the township was completely okay doing what they did. And then, I mean, we can talk further with the board and executive session about if there's documents that you're looking for that you might want to get, or the board can make a decision on that, and we can get back to you on that.
If I could just reply one sentence to that.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you that it turned out to be strictly educational. That was not the intent according to the manager's memo.
Well, that's because I put a stop to the clear memo of what you were saying.
Oversaw it. But the manager's memo said goal setting and discussion, and
correct.
That's township business.
Once I found out that was the intent and the meeting was not public, me as a president at that time decided to tell the board that if we were going to conduct this meeting, that it was going to be a purely educational based meeting, no deliberation, no comment from the board to the manager or to the department heads, or the department heads to that discussion going back and forth. I put a stop to that at that point in time, so that did not happen, and that we were in agreement with the Sunshine Law Act. Any other input? All right, work session discussion topics. Manager Silka.
Okay, as we're relieving, some technical difficulties, I'll be up in 1 second. The first item we're going to discuss is, as we talked about it before, is going to be the a budget adjustment because of the revenue halts that we're anticipating due to the COVID crisis. With the governor's shutdown order of businesses and stay-at-home order, there's been a lot of concern through the municipal community about how it's going to affect our revenues and how we're going to finish this year and go in through next year. So as we discussed in March, we took some immediate stopgap measures to curtail spending, justify spending above anything that's purely operational, and we cut down our capital program. Just, our budget this year is anticipating real estate tax of $3,575,000, earned income tax of $4,735,000, business gross receipts of $555,000, and a capital reserve fund of $375,000 from the capital reserve earmark, and then additionally supplemented $111,000 plus from the general fund. So, those tax categories are probably our most susceptible to the business shutdown, as people are unemployed or on unemployment, not receiving funds, paying the real estate tax if they're not is something that is a personal burden. Their earned income tax, if you're not working, it's not being deducted. Business gross receipts tax, if you're not open, you're not producing revenue, and capital reserve fund is sent out with our real estate tax. So what I want to take a look at is some of the categories year-to-date comparisons from 2019 to 2020. In real estate tax, we're actually showing $17,000 more year-to-date for 2020 than we did in 2019. In my, probably 70% of our real estate tax comes from escrow. So we know that, and probably, an assumption is that a lot of folks knew that the discount period was ending. They didn't want to, if they didn't want to extend and pay face, we may have an accelerated payment of this, to beat this. So real estate tax, as of today, we're tracking, a little bit ahead of last year. Earned income tax the same way. We've had, it was a good quarter, and then, we started seeing the dip in the second quarter. So there. Now the business gross receipts tax paying, now we're starting to see that tax as a check written independently. So we're almost $40,000 less year to date on business gross receipt tax, and they're coming in. Then the capital reserve fund, we're $16,000 less on that. That's probably just, we had some houses that, we got a little bit more real estate taxes. Houses went from interim to full taxation. So we got a little bit more in the real estate tax, but, we were seeing a little bit less payment on the capital reserve fund. So that being said, as of right now, today, we're not bad. I mean, we're bringing our revenue in, we're holding. However, I did sit through a very informative webinar with DCED this week, and their financial experts that they've engaged basically verified what we were doing. We're taking a look at our taxes coming in, and we're kind of lucky because with a lot of cities and boroughs, we don't have parking, we don't have golf courses, we don't have a lot of fee base, so we know that we're going to stick basically to our taxes that we look to come in, and so we're going to modify going from today forward, realizing that I don't have a crystal ball, nobody has a model that's specific. We're guessing at this point, so we're kind of protecting, we're buffering ourselves to potential loss. So the proposed budgetary modifications I'd like to propose to be made via resolution is capital spending that hasn't been approved as of March 20th will be suspended for the 2020 year. We won't do any additional capital spending. We've suspended, and we're going to continue to suspend all offsite training and conferences for 2020, other than those that are required as a condition of employment. Act 120, our building codes, our sewers enforcement officers, they have to have those certifications. We're not going to do any offsite training. We'll do some webinars, but we're not going to send anybody to training. And then I do have a budget reduction of roughly 5% in spending in revenues, roughly $805,688, to help give us, that first buffer. And, kind of going through what I'm looking at on the revenue side is taking our real estate property tax expectations down $300,000. Going on to the enabling tax for real estate transfer tax, reducing our budget number $50,000, taking $325,000 off of our wage tax current, taking $70,000 off our business gross receipts tax, for a $477,000 reduction on our local enabling tax. Then building use under police services, our building permits and occupancy permits, we're going to do roughly $28,000 less on budget, less on that for. And that brings us to the $805,000 on the revenue side. Like I said, this is a first blush. So what we want to do there is go to the administrative or to the expense side and balance the budget. For miscellaneous, we're going to take roughly $4,000 out of the miscellaneous expenses, which we're still trying to work it through and trying to get that down to a manageable amount, because miscellaneous, you should know what you're doing. Consulting fees, we're going to take $25,000 out of the consulting fees. A big chunk there is that the state's not processing new grants, so we're not going to be doing the comprehensive planning grant this year. So we know we're not going to have to do any match there. And then we're just going to, and we're also not going to engage an architect for anything upstairs to do any spatial design. We're taking over the upstairs. Economic development, we're going to knock $10,000 off of the economic development line item. $6,500 out of administrative staff training, and $10,000 for capital equipment, which was going to be furniture for a move upstairs. So that gives us $55,400 and change out of general administration. Under the building and plant, we're taking $25,000 out of the capital improvement. That was going to be painting and rugs in here and chairs for the dais. So we're going to push that off for another year. Police department, the chief is budgeting $50,000 less in overtime. And he's fully staffed. He feels that not running the details for 3 months that we were sitting. He feels that $50,000 would be a fair reduction. Office supplies $2,000, vehicle fuel $4,000. We've run less vehicles in the last 3 months, and also fuel costs is coming down. $1,200 out of the VASCAR budget. $3,500 out of defensive equipment. The affiliated program assistance, we're not going to be doing any camps or anything, so that's going to be the $3,000 out of there. Miscellaneous, again, taking $3,500. Minor equipment, $25,000. blood alcohol test, 18. Seminar and trainings, he's taking $10,000 out of seminar and trainings, and $10,400 out of his the capital purchases that haven't been approved, and that brings $91,000. Planning and zoning, which is probably our smallest one, but we're unfunding the associate planning director's position. We're currently running one staff short there, as we're going to devise that or revise that position to a kind of a tech. But this year we're going to propose not to spend, fill that position. Professional services, we're going to take $25,000 out of that fee. We're not going to do the, between the planning grant and in the code update. So we're knocking that out of the professional services fees, and taking $3,000 out of their training budget for $101,900 to come out of planning and zoning. Emergency management, we're taking $9,500 out of that line item from equipment, $4,500, and their off-site trainings of $5,000. Our big ticket items where we're coming at it is the road department. I would like to consider seasonal employees, because since we are 3 months behind in the public works, putting on seasonal employees to help do the grass cutting and some of the labor work would definitely help us. But I did propose a cut of $4,200 from the seasonal program, but still keeping the seasonal employees on starting in June. Safety equipment, $2,500 in clothing. That is the extra equipment in the yellow shirts that are bought in addition to the employees' clothing allotment. Miscellaneous supplies, $5,000. Office supplies, minimal, $500. Gasoline and oil, $17,000. That helped because we didn't plow all winter, and so we do have a pretty good fluff for those 3 months. General expenses, $1,400. Maintenance and repair, $500. The big one, salt, $154,000 in salt. That is due that we have more salt than we know what to do with right now. We still have a couple more loads coming, but we know we're not going to buy any more other than our minimum purchase under our contract this year, and we'll be good for the first 3 months unless snow starts in August. Then anise, get $1,000, calcium chloride $1,000. It was a light winter. Line painting, $10,000. The only one we actually added to a line item was traffic signal maintenance, and that dovetails into the sync up project for the first installment of adding $38,000 into that line item. Storm system drainage, we're taking $15,000 off. Road reconstruction and repair for the miscellaneous asphalts, $20,000 off. Stone, $5,000 off. Capital projects, $130,000. What we're going to do is the Liberty Avenue retaining wall is going to be pushed into next year. We're having some right-of-way issues with the railroad anyway, so that would probably be a delayed project. So that gives us $335,000 out of Public Works Department. In parks, the program and supplies, $15,000 off there for the events that we haven't done and probably won't do until after July. $5,000 in advertising and printing. That kind of dovetails right in with the program reduction. Summer help, we're taking that down $14,000 again with the parks, because we are behind on our major projects, not being able to work. We'd like to bring them in to do a lot of the grass cutting. Overtime, take $5,000 off. $10,000 to repair of land and buildings, and their capital purchases of $24,000, which gives $75,000 of reduction. And then the last one is the transfer to capital reserve from the general fund, which we argument is $100,800. Not make that transfer, keep that in the savings account. And that brings our budget down $805,668 from $14,712 and change to $13,906, roughly a 5% reduction as of right now. And I said this is a first estimate and a best guess, but this kind of protects us. And we'll look at this again in July and October to determine if we need to cut further or if we can restore some of the projects that we've cut out. And what I did provide you this memo and then a complete edited budget if you want to look.
Jeff, just a correction. You said 14 and 13,000. That's actually 14 million and 13 million.
Yes,
just
I'm
for
sorry.
anybody that's listening.
Yeah, 14 million and 13 million.
Right,
Yes.
with a saving of 805,688.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Does our contribution to the transit, does that change with ridership?
No, that changes with stops. So that's static for the stops we have in the township.
Is that even with the big repair that's going on up by the sheets on Colonial Manor?
That is, that is their capital project. That's not our capital project. That is a transit authority capital
But are they
project.
still charging us for that lot, for that stop? I mean,
No. Yes, because they're still making they moved the stop, but I mean, it's, our payment is like, was it $2,100? I mean, for bus service to the township, it's interrupted a little bit, but it's, they still make all the other stops in the township.
okay. Yeah, you just said it was based by stop, and
Yeah.
that one's closed.
Well, maybe service would be the better one.
Okay.
It's still being serviced, just not out of that. I know they moved it to the Kmart,
Mhm.
right
in
outside.
Allegheny County.
Yeah.
Now with the playground equipment closed, there would be no maintenance involved with that equipment, would there?
As of right now, no, but it's a line item that we still have to, repair it, replace it, and keep it updated. So I don't want to cut anything more from that budget, because they're eventually going to be able to play again.
I guess, Jeff, you might have already stated this, but you sit down, I guess, with the department directors and go over their budgets, or was this basically from you of areas that we could?
I do apologize. I didn't tell you the process.
Yeah.
The process is I asked them to tell me where they could cut and not really fill it. So their numbers came up to me, and I basically actually didn't cut all that they recommended to cut. So this was a bottom-up approach.
Okay. I mean, I'm comfortable with the rough idea of it. I mean, there's some areas of concern that I always bring up about the budget. I mean, the police department budget, a lot of times people say it is what it is, but that's a big figure. You look at, I just did some rough numbers here when you talked about overtime in the different departments. You're going to cut 33% of overtime in Parks and Rec, 0% in Public Works, and 17% in the police department. And I do believe from when the chief said when in his new staffing levels, he's going to have those guys that work the kind of daylight shift as a knockout crew. That should alleviate some overtime expenditures. I mean, a line item budget of $290,000 for overtime is a pretty big chunk of change. And if we're trying to look at areas to save money, I'm not saying to dig into deeper into the overtime aspects, but if there's another way we can look at it, obviously, if you're taking more out of the parks and in the yard of police, I'm not saying that their services are, so to speak, equal. Obviously, the police are out there protecting and serving the community. We have to close a park because we can't service it. That's a whole other topic, but might be an area to look into. Maybe trying to save a little bit more.
What I would say is these numbers are kind of advisory. We would definitely still employ best management practices to reduce costs, and I will share your thoughts with Chief Rizzo.
And then you mentioned about the seasonal employees. I'm fine. I think actually maybe as much as Public Works was with their hiatus with the work schedule, we probably actually maybe need the seasonal employees down in Public Works more so now this year than other past years to try to keep the road program moving forward. I'm completely fine with actually staffing, that to full capacity if we need to, and same with the parks. I mean, we need a staff. I know a lot of times we'll have some park staff do different recreational stuff with the kids. Obviously, that's probably not going to be going on this year, but as far as getting things cut and maintained, I'm okay with that.
One thing I'd like to acknowledge too, and I don't think we ever actually did this fully as a board, is I'd like to thank Bruce Dyson Associates, because at the beginning of this contract year, they did also reduce their services fees. So I know it's not showing in this, but again, Bruce, I want to thank you for doing that. That does help the town out as well. And I think this year for our summer employees that we might have an easier time recruiting as there are high unemployment numbers. So I agree with Zach. It's a good expenditure for the township.
All right. Any other comments on were you looking at the budget?
I do have one other question. Under the police department, there's 2 line items for overtime and
Yes.
2 line items for fringe benefits. Can you explain the difference?
Yes, one is the large one is police, and the second one is dispatch.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll put that on the agenda for official action.
Yep.
Okay, my next item of discussion is the Comcast franchise renewal. This was engaged last year with the Cohen Law Group to come up with our latest 10-year franchise renewal with Comcast. They've completed the negotiations, and the document was provided to you for your review. Again, this includes franchise fee of 5%, the educational and governmental channels, if we wish to access one, which we don't have the capacity right now to put TV on the air. One part of this, what we did do is we did do an audit of our service addresses, and we did find there were some of the new plans that weren't being credited to North Huntington Township. So they've been put on to collect the franchise fee from. And quite frankly, cable franchises aren't as lucrative as they used to be. As people find other ways to stream in their entertainment. We only have Comcast in the area. This is probably Verizon, I think we've all learned, will not come because they're not expanding their base right now in Fios. So without question, but I would recommend that this be put on to authorize the ordinance adoption at the next meeting.
Any questions on the Comcast agreement? All right, yeah, just to reiterate what Jeff said, oftentimes people ask about other providers, and this is the only provider that was willing to go into an agreement with the township with a contract agreement.
Jeff, on page 1 of that Comcast franchise agreement, you have 9 bullet points. Just for the public's purpose, can we read those 9 and let them know what the benefits would include in regards to the Comcast franchise agreement?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Whenever you look at a franchise agreement from the municipality, these are the 9 points that you look at. State-of-the-art cable system now and in the future, so you want to see expansion. Strong customer service standards. Free services at community facilities. Better reporting requirements from the cable operators. Maximize franchise fees. Public, educational, and governmental PEG channels. PEG capital support funding. Legal protections of our right-of-ways, and better mechanisms to enforce the franchise agreement.
Thank you.
Jeff, could you tell us what kind of free services township already gets right now?
Yes, there is an appendix, and it's free television to the townhouse, to the police department, to the public works facilities, to the fire departments, and the school district does get the access to the educational channel.
Okay, thank you for telling the public that.
Anything else on the franchise agreement?
Yeah, that public access channel, how does that work? Do they have to go out to the cable company and request it? Because I tried doing this a while back with the school district and having the school board televised through the cable, but you had to jump through a lot of hoops to do it.
Well, I'm sorry. The channel is available to us. And to the school district. They don't have to provide the equipment to get your meeting on.
Right.
And actually, the school superintendent did ask if this is available, and I did give him our representative's name, our governmental affairs representative to do. But yeah, I mean it's in our franchise agreement. They have to provide the access to the airwaves. However, you have to basically provide the mechanism, the production studio, to get it to the airway, depending how big you want to do it.
Yeah, I think they actually have some equipment at the school now because they do some productions up there.
And they are looking at doing that in the next year.
Thank you. Anything else on the franchise agreement? All right, thanks.
Okay.
Hey, I'm sorry, just for the record, for all the folks out there that are listening in, If I can just read this one little bit of paragraph, it says that this franchise agreement does not exclude or prohibit any other cable or TV service from coming into the township. And the reason why I say that is, I want people to know that Comcast is not going to come in here and monopolize, and that they're going to be the only business. I think that's important for people to think, otherwise we're looking at a possible future antitrust suit filed by the government. So I just wanted to read that straight out of the Comcast franchise agreement to the folks out in the community, so they know that they still have a choice. Thank you.
Okay. The next item that I'd like to discuss is the Route 30 fourth cycle sync-up project. This is a grant program that we've been involved in. This is our third award within the grant application for utilizing these funds through the SPC for Route 30 light work, equipment upgrades, emergency responders, and timing to keep traffic going as best it can through the Route 30 corridor. This is a $367,933 grant that is split 80-20 between SBC, who brings the grant in, and the township. Our share is $73,587. We were under the impression that we weren't going to have to, this wasn't going to come in until next year, so this hasn't been budgeted. And what what we have to do to sign this agreement is provide 50% of our share, which is roughly $38,000, which in the budget modification is put into the street light account. And the lights, there's 14 points on this, 14 intersections from Colonial Manor east on 30. That they're going to do controller assemblies, emergency vehicle preemption, pedestrian countdown signals, new signal heads, LED retrofits, GPS time reference units, backplates, and timing. Now there are two signals. The last two are actually in the middle of this. It goes through Irwin, and there's two signals that have to be retimed at roughly the cost of $2,500. We are proposing so this project doesn't get bogged down, just to assume the cost of that timing because it is our project. And if the board so chooses, we can participate in this. Like I said, this is our third application approved out of 3 applications. So that they like doing work here. We do well work here. And just so everybody knows, we own every light, light standard, every piece of equipment on Route 30. It's a state route, but the township owns it and is responsible for all the maintenance. So it's not like the state's making us pay for their system. We have every light permitted. We pay all the upkeep and maintenance on it. And this part,
Jeff,
yes.
As Route 30 is scheduled for new construction in 2023, does PennDOT have budgeted to resynchronize? Because I'm looking at the list, and the first 6 lights, I believe, on here would be part of that first phase of construction. So is that something this is going to last 4 years, and then they will redo this, or is that just kind of up in the air right now?
Well, if they come in and change it, they will upgrade it as part of the process. But quite frankly, I wouldn't hold my breath that phase 1 is going to happen in 2023.
Okay.
Because it seems that every time we have a meeting, it keeps getting bumped down, and so I would be very hesitant to bank too much on a 3-year light cycle.
Okay.
Jeff, can I ask if we decline to do that this year, because $73,000 is a lot of money, can we get into this program next year?
There's no. If we give this money back, it is reallocated. There's no guarantee this program is going to be available for a 5th cycle. This is federal funding that comes through. This is all happenstance, and $73,000 would be for 2 years. We would have 50% this year, 50% next year. And that gives us, the updated work. So it gives us, a pretty big bite for a small amount of lights that we would have to own. We would have to upgrade if they fail. But there's no guarantee we can't defer this project, and there's no guarantee this project will even be available in upcoming years.
Jeff,
And
is there
have we
any
asked Irwin
guarantee
for
from the
their
company that
$2,500
implements
share for
this
this?
of traffic flow? Because I know 2 years ago, or maybe a year ago at this point, we made improvements to our lights, and then all of a sudden, the traffic from Colonial Manor Road to Center Avenue, Robin Station, it was just a nightmare. And I know a lot of it was being blown into clay pipe construction, which I really don't think had much of any effect on that. What's the guarantee of the success of modifying these lights? Is there any promise in that in the contract?
Well, just like they came out, we did have problems. We do have, at the Center Highway, Route 30, we have really weird geometry, and we have the whistle from Centerville that keeps going off. So basically, Circleville. I'm sorry, I keep calling it Centerville. I'm new. But they do come out and try to and reprogram. Even to this day, they're coming out and helping us reprogram and getting the traffic flowing. So anytime you put in light phases through as many lights as we have through the short distance, you're going to have phasing issues. But their engineer is on site afterwards. PennDOT's engineer is on site afterwards to make sure everything works, because the worst thing they can do is hang a light up and then walk away from it and then cause, more problems or cause, damage. So the guarantee is they do work with us, and they keep coming to work with us.
I believe the one on Colonial Manor, I think Mike Turley usually heads up these projects, and we did have some issues with that one. They had to address that. I think going back maybe almost a year ago, it was giving us some trouble, but yeah, I think they did come back out and address that issue.
And to answer your question, we haven't, because we just got this basically, last week. We didn't approach everyone because we didn't want to hold this project up for $2,500.
But will we go back and ask them for that if this is approved?
If the board so sees fit, but what I would like to see is, our recommendation is to approve it so we don't stop, our part of the project, and we can go back and try to have them do it.
Jeff, is the funds for this part of the $73,000 that's in the updated budget?
Yes.
So it's already included in this budget?
Yes, it's included in the budget modification.
All right, thank you.
Any other board discussion, questions?
Jeff, the word grant came up. Grant means we get money from an entity that we don't have to pay back.
Correct.
How much of the grant do we get for our share? Our share, according to this, looks like $73,587.
Right.
And I guess we owe some right now. The program, where does that say that? The expense would be $36,793.50 at signing, and the remainder of that, I guess the remainder of that $73,000 would be in 2021.
Correct.
Okay, so the money that we owe, which is roughly $73,587, how much of that will come to us in the form of a grant?
The balance of this,
None.
you take the $367,933 is the total project cost.
Okay, got it?
Our share of the project is $73,587.
Okay,
The balance is the grant that pays for our lights.
okay.
So you subtract that from there.
The grant's going to be
Oh, wow.
just under 300,000, 294.
Okay, I see that now. Thank you for clarification, appreciate it. Okay.
Any other board discussion or questions?
Okay, I'll put it on the agenda
Yep.
for consideration. The next item is the Penwood Civic Association fireworks request, requested by Commissioner Gass.
Yeah, so I have a letter. I'm sorry, so I have a letter here from Mike, who's the vice president down to Pennswood Civic Association, and they're asking for permission to have fireworks for this 4th of July, with the exception, or the, deviation from that, if the COVID-19 still prevents them from having fireworks and so on and so forth. Clearly, Pennswoods wants to put on the fireworks again for this year, for July 4th, but they've also said, just in the case that the COVID-19 has a more bearing and it shuts the July 4th Independence Day fireworks down, they'd like to do it again sometime for Labor Day. So Pennswood Civic Association is looking for confirmation from the board to allow them to have the fireworks for the 4th of July with, you know, with regards to the COVID-19. If it stymies that July 4th, then it would be, if it's okay to have it for Labor Day.
Yeah, I mean, typically I'm sure that maybe we can vote on that as a board, but typically they'll just send a letter in and then.
I have
yeah,
that letter.
Yeah, if you want to just give the letter to Jeff and
Okay.
we can put it on for the
Yep.
agenda for next week.
Okay.
And I think a lot of times they'll set a rain date too.
Correct,
and
they
if they
did.
want to use that, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's all there in the letter. Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next item is the Kathy Hardy reimbursement request, requested by Commissioner Gass.
And thanks again. So I have a letter here from Miss Kathy Hardy for reimbursement for the back door. They did a health and welfare inspection on her, and she wasn't answering the door. So the police went over, couldn't get her to answer the door, so they kicked in the back door, and damages were done. And so the door was replaced, and it's a beautiful door, so that was nice through Home Depot. But then they had to have another gentleman come out and reinstall her storm door. So Kathy had to put out, Miss Hardy had to put out an additional $300 out of her own pocket. She's requesting reimbursement for that, and that's what this is here for.
Now, from my understanding of this case, the person that called in this wellness check was not actually related to or associated with the resident, and the police were doing their due diligence and following up.
Yeah.
And I know Chief Richmond is not here to say if this has happened previously, but what would the circumstances previously be on other cases if this has been the situation? Does the township bear the responsibility for that, or is the homeowner typically do that? Does anybody insight on that?
Generally, the homeowner would replace it and send us a bill if we do it in a non-criminal act.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that then.
Any other board discussion?
That can just be done administratively.
Okay, yeah.
So if you just give me
That's
the
fine.
receipt, we can take care of it.
I just have a question. Has she tried going through her homeowners yet?
We didn't want to do that to her. She is elderly and
Oh,
on a fixed income, and the last thing we want to do is burden her with financial. So
There's also other circumstances there too.
yeah.
That the person that called for the welfare check was no relation of hers.
Correct. Yeah.
If I can just say on that, I think that's just common procedure with any police department. If they damage somebody's property, they pay for it. Unless it's a criminal act, like you said, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. The next item is the letter to Governor Wolf requesting the opening of Westmoreland County. That was requested to be put on for discussion.
Well, he's opening the township and the county tomorrow for under the yellow phase. There are some people that still feel that he should go a little bit further with that. I know we talked about that letter and what should be in it, but before it goes out, it needs to be modified because things have changed in that letter.
Jeff, you just want to read the draft of the letter?
Sure.
Just so everyone's aware of what it states.
Okay. Dear Governor Wolf, on May 4th, 2020, the Westmoreland County Commissioners sent you a letter regarding the reopening of our county in the yellow phase. We, the Board of Commissioners of North Huntington Township, a first-class township in western Westmoreland County, join with our County Board of Commissioners in requesting you reconsider the opening using your own criteria of low per capita case counts, the ability to conduct contact tracing and testing, and the appropriate population density to contain community spread. At this time, our township and county have suffered great economic distress due to the closure and the limited operation of our numerous small businesses. Established small businesses in our community have closed permanently due to these conditions. The largest number of Westmoreland cases are in confined areas, including nursing homes, where citizens are utilizing businesses that are open, not where citizens are utilizing businesses that are open. Our residents have shown their resiliency in the midst of this outbreak, drastically altering their lives in the name of keeping each other safe and healthy. We have proven that we follow the prescribed techniques in slowing and stopping the spread of this virus through proper hand washing, extensive sanitizing, covering the mouth and nose with masks, and practicing social distancing. We have demonstrated that we know how to stay calm, safe, and healthy during this time. Our numerous small business owners have prepared to reopen by installing safety equipment and using measures to curb the spread of the COVID-19. Without question, North Huntington Township and Westmoreland County has demonstrated its preparedness to reopen and met qualifications to move to yellow phase of reopening. Being served by UPMC, Allegheny Health Network, and Excella Health Systems, we have not seen any strain on the health care system in our area. Furthermore, our township and neighboring boroughs of Irwin and North Irwin have a total of only 27 cases for over 30,000 residents, or a rate of 0.09% since the initial outbreak. The residents of the Commonwealth have shouldered the burden of the stay-at-home orders and business shutdowns by losing their employment and ability to sustain their personal financial responsibilities. The safety net of unemployment insurance has failed to meet its basic responsibility of providing unemployment insurance, providing the benefits in a timely manner. The PUA unemployment compensation authorized by the CARES Act has yet to be received by any self-employed person and is not projected to issue checks for at least 2 more weeks, leaving affected businesses with 0 revenue for 7 weeks, causing hardship, poverty, and business collapse, which affects our tax revenue. In conclusion, we implore you to reconsider your decision to move Westmoreland County, including North Huntington Township, from red to yellow in the first round of openings on May 8th.
And my understanding is that the PUA unemployment started to be received on May the 8th. So we're now yellow tomorrow, and so those would be the things that would need changed in that letter.
Any other suggestions for change or comments?
I don't know. My question would just, I mean, I think we put it on the agenda and discuss
Yeah.
it, but do we need to send a letter now that we're going to yellow tomorrow?
I mean, like Virginia, like you said, if you want to even change some of the wording from, yellow to green or however that might work, and then take that wordage out there about some of the benefits that may be available now.
At this point, I don't
Yeah.
even think we need to send it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think since we initially wrote this letter till today, I think it's a moot point at this juncture.
You know what? I'm going to lovingly disagree. I think the governor needs to understand that this township and its residents rightfully should be very angry and very upset with him. He has put us in a very bad predicament. I think he should still receive this letter with verbiage changed, making us from yellow now to green. There is no reason for him. Thank you, sir. There's no reason for him to hurt this township and the residents anymore, and I think we need to send him a strong letter and a warning shot over his bow that he's hurting people and it needs to stop. And he does not have the authority to do that to the people of this great state of Pennsylvania, nor this township. Thank you.
Jeff, if you don't mind, if you want to just change some of the wording on there,
Okay.
and then maybe send it out for review, and then we can put it on the agenda for next week.
Probably what I would, with the board's consensus,
Yeah.
is take a look at, asking him to develop the metrics to move from yellow to green, because even at today's press conference, the health secretary said there's no metrics made yet to what is going to be considered the move to yellow to green, or to yellow to green. That would probably be where I would concentrate, the modifications of the letter.
All right. Yeah, if you want to draft that and
Okay.
just send it to the board, and we'll put it on the agenda for next week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wide open covers it.
Something you may want to consider, and then you may not. It's just another thought out there. There are municipalities that are sending resolutions off to the governor saying that we are not going to enforce any of your edicts except those that deal with social distancing and the masks and et cetera. And if you want them to be enforced, you get the state police to do it, and they're instructing their local police departments not to enforce those regulations, but rather leave it to the state police to enforce them, because they think they're nuts. They think it's crazy. I mean, think about it. Less than 0.1% of people have been affected by this, and I mean, I'm old. I never remember shutting down for chicken pox or the mumps. And I mean, this is just absolutely over the top. And there's just I think there are municipalities taking that kind of position.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. We have something to add to the agenda tonight, so.
Okay.
Commissioner Zoni, do you want to lead the discussion?
Okay, I did submit a resolution just stating that. It should be there in front of you if you want to read it.
All right.
Underneath everything, and you should have it go too, Eric, if you read it. And again, yeah, we are moving to yellow tomorrow. The problem with that is a lot of these little businesses are gonna open, but a lot of them still aren't gonna be able to open. And if you heard the governor's press conference the other day, he calls business owners that want to open and provide for their family, he called them cowards. And he said the real heroes are the ones that are sitting at home not making any money. And as Eric said, I mean, that's a slap in the face to every hardworking person in this country. And his own words are, this is war. We're going to war with these people that want to open their businesses. So on that note, I drafted a resolution just for that, just to have the North Huntington Police not cite any business that decides to open against the governor's regulation, as long as they are following CDC guidelines, which is wearing a mask, the protection, properly sanitizing their business. That's why I wanted to put that on the agenda, just what you said.
All right,
Yeah.
okay.
I thought since we did change, I liked sending the letter, but I thought this would take the place of that letter.
Murraysville just passed this.
Yeah, and there's many counties that actually came out and passed this. I just talked to one of the commissioners yesterday. They've been talking to John Peck about this. He's not going to budge. He's not going to come out and say it on the record that he's not prosecuting cases. This is different than not prosecuting. You can tell your police department not to cite for any of these things. I mean,
Well, you don't have the manpower.
right.
I mean, that's all you'd be doing.
And the police department and Chief Rizzo is 100% behind this too.
Jeff, if you wouldn't mind, you mind us reading the resolution, just so it's on the record?
Sure. A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Township of North Huntington, Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania, declaring that North Huntington Township will not cite or pursue legal action against any township business which reopens as long as they comply to the mandates set forth by the governor and the CDC. Whereas on Friday, May 15th, Westmoreland County will move to the yellow phase of reopening at the order of Governor Wolf. For some local businesses, it may be too little too late. Our community faces the real likelihood of mortgage foreclosures, business failure, and bankruptcy if they are unable to earn a living. We are on the verge of dire economic circumstances which could have permanent consequences. Through his orders, the governor has assumed control of our citizens' personal choices and has revoked our personal freedoms and liberties as individuals. We must decide what we do to balance the need for economic stability against our community's ability to remain safe. Whereas the majority of our citizens have taken the proper steps to protect themselves and their loved ones, and our business owners have taken the steps to protect their customers and employees. Essential businesses, along with our local government, have operated safely during this time. Our non-essential businesses should be allowed to do the same. Whereas law enforcement exists to protect and serve communities, not enforce arbitrary regulations. This has placed officers across our state in uncharted territory. It would be nearly impossible to be consistent in citing individuals or businesses for perceived violations of the governor's orders. Whereas, whether a business opens or whether an individual feels safe to patronize these businesses is a decision which should be left to our citizens. Our police already have a tough job, made tougher during these trying times. They should not have to have the added pressure of persecuting our businesses. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of the Township of North Huntington, Westmoreland County, that North Huntington Township will not cite or pursue legal action against any business which reopens as long as they comply with the mandates set forth by the governor and the CDC. These include the use of personal protective equipment, social distancing, and proper disinfecting. Any allegations of a business's failure to comply will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis.
And my only, I guess, objection to this is the wording in the first paragraph and the last paragraph. We're saying as long as they comply with the mandates set forth by the governor. Well, of course, the mandate is that they remain closed. So we need to make that more specific.
I agree.
I think in the one section, it does exactly that. It says, I have to find it
You
here.
might just say heretofore stated, I mean,
Yeah.
because you did state it, and I heard.
It's stated in there what stipulations they have to follow. I can't find it here.
It's the last paragraph in the
These
resolve.
include the use of personal protective equipment, social distancing, and proper disinfecting.
Oh, yeah, it's in that last paragraph. It says they will not cite them as long as they comply with the governor and CDC, which include wearing the personal protection, social distancing, and proper disinfecting. What I was getting at there is any allegations of a business failing to comply with those regulations would be reviewed. So if somebody would call to the police and say, this business is open, they're not using masks, they're not using any protective equipment, that would be something that we would go look at. If they are following and using the PPE and disinfecting properly, that's something that we wouldn't go look at. And now again, that's not to say that the state police could come in or the governor's threatening to pull licenses of anybody that opens. That's something the business owner would have to take the risk if they want to open. I know business owners that have opened weeks ago. I know one in Allegheny County. A lady's been doing hair for 2 weeks down there, letting one come in at a time. She's risking it because she's not getting any money, any income. So
And-
I don't know. I thought that spelled it out. I don't know. I mean, we can run it by the
it's not
solicitor
hard.
to
I
make
mean,
sure.
I could make it more clear, I think it does spell it out, but to make it crystal clear, you just say, as a mandate stated above, because they are stated.
Yeah, that's my only objection to that is that word, that as long as they comply to the mandates set forth by the governor, that just needs to be
Stated
made
within this
clear,
resolution.
You know, because he's mandated they be closed, but, so.
So that's an action item for next Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, unless the board wanted to take action on it tonight, but I mean, if you want to make some revisions, we can probably just
I
wait
think
till
he's
next
already
week.
done it.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
I mean, if it's up to the board, I mean, if the board would want to take action tonight, we'd have to take public input, but I mean, that's up to the board. I mean, I'm comfortable putting it on the agenda for tonight if someone wants to make that motion.
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second to add it to the agenda. All in favor by state and I.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. This time we'll take any public input. Just name and address for the record, please.
Richard Gray, 12229 Adams Drive. I just want to say I commend you all for taking this action. I think it's great. The one revision I would like to add to Ron's resolution is at the very end of it, if you could just add one word, amen. Thank you.
All right, Jeff, if you have that revision, you just want to read the revised section.
okay. It's a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Township of North Huntington, Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania, declaring that North Huntington Township will not cite or pursue legal action against any township business which reopens as long as they comply with the mandate stated within this resolution.
All right,
And then I'll take out,
at the bottom as well, yep.
yeah, then I'll read that, now be it resolved, Board of Commissioners, North Huntington Township will not cite, pursue legal actions against any business which reopens as long as they comply with the mandates set forth, such as the use of personal protective equipment, social distancing, and proper disinfecting.
There you
Right.
go.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right, we just need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adopt that resolution.
Second.
Discussion?
And again, I would just say it is important to do it today since we will be going to yellow tomorrow. These businesses will have a chance to open tomorrow if they so choose to open. Thanks.
Any other discussion? Appreciate you putting that together and bringing it up.
Nice work.
All right, all those in favor by state and I.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
That is all I have on the agenda
Right.
today.
Thank you. Plan and engineering topics, not have anything scheduled for tonight. Any old business? Any further board comments?
If I may, can we go back to the Comcast agreement one last time?
Yep.
I noticed, finally found the Exhibit A, the locations. We have all the fire departments listed, but I do not see Hontown or Hartford Heights. Are they being included?
They may never have asked for it. I mean, I don't, there's no, I mean, I can definitely, have it checked before we sign it off. I can put them on.
Sure. Yeah, just, I mean, we listed all the other ones, and I didn't see those two, and we offer it to some and not others. I don't think that's proper.
Yep. This is who got it from the last one, but I'll definitely add them on.
Thank you.
Or is that list just who reached out to ask for the cable? Or,
I think it's probably just renewal from the last contract.
okay, then they,
Yeah.
okay.
And Jeff, we are going to start taking permits tomorrow. Do you want to address that?
Yes, we are. We've been taking building permits. And we've been taking we've been taking unofficial planning commission submissions. But we will start because we will be going, as of yellow, we'll be opening the doors of the township building tomorrow for public access. The tax window is going to. They are going to remain closed. They are not going to do any walk-up business. And we will be basically a full-scale operation tomorrow. And in June, we'll have all the regular meetings, to the planning commission meetings, the zoning hearing boards, and the other advisory board meetings will be here in June under the social distancing protocols.
And lastly, in regards to Mr. Gray, what he brought up at the very beginning of the movie, geez whiz. I got Jeff-itis over here, Centerville, and get it? Sorry. Making, with the what we discussed early on in regards to the February's meeting, can we make a motion to open up those records to Mr. Gray? Do we do that now, or?
And if you want to make that a motion, you can. You just have to make a motion to add it on to the agenda.
Okay, I mean, is it added on to the agenda for next week?
You would have to make that motion if you wanted to do that right now, or you could add it on to the agenda for next week. I mean, that's up to you. I mean, if you wanted to vote on it now, you would just have to make a motion, have someone second it to add it on to the agenda for tonight. Or if you want to talk about adding it on for the agenda for next week, we could do so.
Well, I think we can, and if you allow me some leniency, I think we can all agree that we've got nothing to hide. We really, really don't. And it's unfortunate that came to the way it did. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody or anything like that. I think we are all very, very adamantly transparent up here. I honest to God, I do believe that. I know I am. I really, really do. I don't want anybody looking from TV land questioning us and our motives. And look, we've got a problem with our governor. I want everybody to know about it. This township has a problem with him. I've got a problem with him. I think a lot of people have a problem with him, and I want it to be known, and I don't want to bring any more mystique to anything. I believe in open transparency. I honest to God, I do. I live by it. And I think that I'd like to make a motion that we decide to vote tonight on releasing the records or the township, how'd you say it, Mr. Gray? What was the
Subject of my open records, right to know request.
The right to know request. Yeah, I know we've got nothing to hide, so I'd like to just go ahead and vote on that tonight, if we may, please, so we can show the people in America that we don't have anything to hide.
There's a motion on the floor to add to the agenda to free the request for the open rights record request. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Was there a request? You got a second, so now it's discussion. Is there are some letters back and forth that I sent, which are caught by the attorney-client privilege. If you want to release those, that's your choice. But once you do, you no longer have the right to stand behind that attorney-client privilege. So.
Well, would Mr. Gray be okay if those were not?
That's, I believe, not to speak for him, but that's emails that he is requesting.
He wants what?
I think that's the emails that he's requesting.
Mine.
Correct.
I would like the chance to review those before we vote on anything. Only because I don't know what's in them. I don't know if there's anything regarding another matter that may have came up in them. So I think we should review them and then make that decision.
I was going to say too, what all does it include? Is it just emails? Is that what we're asking? And I would like a chance to look at it too, to review it too. Not that there's nothing that is something to hide, but I mean, I'd like to see what it is too.
Well, if it's the board's pleasure, maybe we could add it to the agenda for next week, and either Bruce or someone from his office or Jeff could send those emails to the board for review, and then at that time next week, everyone would have a chance to review them. If that the board's pleasure at that time, they could release the emails to Mr. Gray and then whoever else would want to see them.
Jeff, how long is it gonna take you to produce those?
They're copied, I mean, because they were, I mean, it's their emails.
I mean, as far as accumulating them, I mean, you would have to get them together, wouldn't you?
No, because they were, the record was sent down on the appeal to get a legal opinion on if I can release them or not. So, I mean, producing them or not, I mean, you know, the production is not an issue.
Okay.
It's the content is what the legal opinion went to.
Okay,
In other
then,
words,
Eric, would you
is it
like to
protected
withdraw that
or is
motion?
it not protected? Is it one of the sunshine exceptions that you don't reveal? And understand what Rich says. The sunshine law starts out by saying, we presume that everything is open to the public. And there are those that think there shouldn't be any exceptions to the sunshine law, which includes the sale of land, the discipline of employees, the discussions on litigation, the closed confidential meetings when you get educated, those kinds of things, those exceptions to the sunshine law. There's a group of people that say you should have to disclose all of that. But that's not what our act says. It does give you a list of exceptions. And I'll tell you what I'll do. I carry around with me, generally at the regular meetings, a little cheat sheet that says it all. It's 1.5, 2 pages. I'll make sure that Jeff has a copy of that. And it gives you all of the exceptions to the sunshine law. But recognize that, you know, generally speaking, whatever you guys do should be open to the discussion of the public. I think that's very damaging, but that's what people think. Imagine if you're trying to make a deal on a piece of property and somebody tells somebody what you're offering and where you're going to be on this. You could lose the deal. You could maybe not make the deal. Same with litigation, where you're getting involved in making some strategy decisions. And now the other side knows what you're doing. I mean, those kinds of things are really troublesome if the sunshine law ever gets amended to say everything's open game. But I'll get that little sheet out where you can see what they are, and you can go from there. I mean, if you want, the letters, emails that I think we sent dealt with whether or not the meeting, it dealt with what the meeting was about and what was going to go on at the meeting. And then we offered an opinion.
The Sunshine Law Act, which I believe your opinion was deal with conferences. It says any training program, seminar, or any other session arranged by state, federal agencies, or local agencies organized to conduct the sole purpose of providing information to the agency's matters on directly related to their office responsibilities.
And yeah, I mean, that's it. And that's what it says in the act. And Rich is right. I mean, you know, that you don't have to do, just because it says you don't have to give it to them, doesn't mean you aren't required, that you don't have to. Just because you got an exception to hide under, that doesn't mean you still can't give out the information.
I mean, if there's sensitive information that's something going
You'd
on.
have to tell me if there was anything sensitive at the work session.
Yeah.
And I'm taking it from what you've said so far, there was nothing sensitive.
That's what I was thinking too, and that's why I was trying to make a motion to go ahead.
And it was more educational in nature.
I thought it was just to let Mr. Gray just have the information that what the meeting was about, and from what I remember, it was just an
Well,
education for us
so
with the
you
department heads.
understand, my letters to you are caught by the attorney-client privilege, and they don't go out to the public. They're also an exception under the Sunshine Law.
Okay.
And you have to decide whether or not you want them to go out. Because we have that special relationship.
Right.
So how about this? You guys can produce the documents to the board, and you can put it on the agenda for next week to either take action or no action on, and that way the board has a chance to look at the emails. And
And
then
if you
can go
decide to
from
give it to them, it ends
Yeah.
the litigation.
Yep.
No more
Absolutely.
expense.
Okay, so with that said, from what I'm understanding, and I don't want to be painted as a bad guy, and I don't think anybody wants to be a bad guy here in this situation, I just know that. Maybe perhaps I should make a motion to withdraw my request and let us look at, because I'm not, I don't want to hide anything, Mr. Gray, I really don't, yet at the same time, I'm also, I hear you, brother, and I really believe in transparency, I know you know that. But I also
Fran.
don't know anything about if there is some sensitive information.
Okay, so you're making a motion to withdraw. Who seconded it?
I am.
Second
You
it.
withdraw the second. Okay, that's done.
Okay.
All right, so we'll get the emails from you guys, and then you can put on the agenda for next week for action.
All right.
Any further board comments? Just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor by saying an aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Meeting adjourned at 8:21.